welcome for the final end of the year update on the top 10 authors I wanted to read in 2021. I did a mid-year update on this, and at that point in time, I had 3 authors left that I had not read, which are highlighted on the picture over here. Well, they were highlighted. They're not now. I'll talk about which ones they were. The authors I had not read by the middle of the year were Evan Winter, Rosanne A. Brown, and Melissa Scott. When I originally made this list, I was trying to pick some authors that were new to me, that were either writing debut books or ones that I had wanted to read in 2020 but never got around to. So that's kind of what this list came from. And again, the last 3 authors that I wanted to read mid-year that I still hadn't, I was able to read. And I actually read multiple books by Evan Winter. So he's the first one I'll talk about. So Evan Winter writes the Burning fantasy, like epic fantasy series. And I did read Rage of Dragons, and now I'm blanking on the second book, but I'll put them both up over there. These were amazing. He is an amazing fantasy author. He does a wonderful job building complete worlds with very complex characters that are flawed but like have a lot of depth and are engaging. The plot was very intricate and very well done. There's a really cool magic system. It's just like quintessential fantasy. If you want some great epic fantasy with magic and dragons, and it's got a little bit more of a military twist because most of the characters are in battle or in a military most of the time. But it was just amazingly written. I think there's something in there for everyone. I would highly recommend Winters. Again, I'm a little late jumping on this bandwagon. You know, I think his first book came out in 2019 or 2020, and I didn't read it, and now I have, and I'm super excited that I finally read it. So I would definitely recommend him as an author. The other 2 that were left on the list were kind of a miss for me. So let's talk about Rosanne A. Brown first. She wrote A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. That's the book I was reading from her. It came out last year, and then the second book came out earlier in 2021. I ended up not finishing A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. I read 42% of it. I was reading on my Kindle. So I read 42% of it. I just didn't like it. I realized almost halfway through the book that I just didn't care. I was struggling to read it, and I'll give you some reasons why. Firstly, I thought the world building was kind of thin. Halfway through the book, like, I just didn't feel like I knew a lot about the world. It felt like a typical fantasy world. There wasn't anything really that was exciting about it. And the plot was moving really slow. It seemed like a big point of the book were these 2 characters to meet up, and we're reading from their different point of views. And at 42% in, they still hadn't met up. It just seemed to be going very, very slow, and I find that kind of frustrating. The other thing that I'm a little bit torn about, because I'm glad that she tried to do it, but I don't think it worked very well. Her characters have some serious, like, mental illness issues. One of them has a lot of anxiety issues. I'm trying to remember what the other one has. But anyways, the way she portrayed it, like, it's good to represent those kind of characters in a story. But it kind of took over the story. Like, it was almost too much of the main character, one of the main character's anxiety issues. It was just overwhelming the story. Like, the reader gets it. We understand he's having these issues. You don't need to just continue pounding them into your reader over and over. And my other problem was how they were dealt with. Like, I didn't feel like these characters were learning good coping mechanisms, or there was any discussion about that. In general, they just kind of pushed through their mental issue. And I don't think that's necessarily the right way to tell people to deal with the mental problem. So that the characters came off as very selfish. They weren't very good with the people around them, and I don't really get a lot of pleasure and joy out of reading about people who are really selfish and mean to each other. So I didn't like that, and that's why I stopped. I realized at 42% that this book was like dragging me down more than it was giving me anything, and I had just gotten it from the library, I believe, so I just returned it, and I was like, I'm done. So Rosanne A. Brown did not work for me. Maybe her second book was better. I don't know. And I know a lot of people really love that book, but it wasn't for me. The other author that I had on my list to read, the last author, and I ended up not finishing her book, was Melissa Scott. And her books were written in the mid-'80s, and she's a cyberpunk writer. And I really do like cyberpunk, but I kind of wanted to revisit the genre this last year. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't do a great job of doing that just because there aren't a lot of authors writing cyberpunk right now. And I struggle with this book. I didn't get very far into it. I got maybe a chapter or two into it and I kind of gave up. And my main issue with this book is it does what a lot of like older mid 80s, even early 90s science fiction did to people. It just drops you into this world with all these weird terms. You don't know anything about anything that's going on. So you're struggling the whole time. And it's like the author intentionally gave all these weird, bizarre names to weird, bizarre things, and you have no footing in the world. You're just constantly paging back and forth and trying to figure out, okay, like this word was used here, and what does that mean? And wait, no, it's used here too, so it can't mean that, you know. It was just really a struggle to read, and it just moves slow. So, you know, in the first two chapters, I think we had met our character, got through a whole bunch of weird terms thrown at us, and I was just kind of I wasn't into it. I wasn't mentally up for it at that time. And so maybe if you're the kind of person who likes that thing and you like unraveling all this weird sci-fi terminology and all that, you might get into it. But I just, it was not for me. I was not a fan. And I think I read two chapters and I was like, nope. And I actually had that in book format because you can't get her books on Kindle right now. And it just, that was it. It went away. We brought it to Half Price Books, and that was the end of that one. So, all in all, a bit of a hit or miss for the second half of the year. Loved Evan Winters. Would definitely recommend him. Rosanne A. Brown was not for me. Maybe her writing will improve as she continues to write. I do know a lot of people loved that series, but meh. And Melissa Scott, like I had high hopes for a woman writing in the 1980s as cyberpunk, but again, it just really wasn't my thing. So anyways, that being said, I did get through all the authors I wanted to read in 2021, and you can watch my middle of the year update if you want to hear about the other 7 that were on that list. I'll link that below. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will be coming up with a top 10 authors I want to read in 2022, and that will probably post sometime in January. So look forward to talking to you guys about that. I hope you have a great week of reading, and I will talk to you later. Bye.